Today I have this Roper's washer that I picked up several months back. The reason I picked it up, I'm using the metal for a project, and I also need a motor for another project. I was told this machine didn't work, that's why they were giving it away. This was off Craigslist, and I decided to give it a shot before I start ripping it apart. It's not the prettiest, but if it's working, I could probably get a couple of dollars for it. I have the hoses to the side. First thing, I'm connecting the power line to it. Want to make sure that power cord is working, and it is. I hooked the light to it and the light came on. And when I turn this on, and this is like this because it was left out. When I turn it on, listen to this now. You can hear that motor humming. To fill the water, you hear it working. The switch is working, and the motor is also humming. Now, the humming on that motor could be from a bad capacitor, or it might be as simple as something blocking the motor. So before I dismantle this and take the metal off for my other project, you can always pick these up, they're always around. I'm going to check this out, and instead of taking the casing off, I'm going to try to work on it from underneath. I do have a video. If you hit that link up above, I do have a video on how to disassemble one of these washers, and they're all a little different. This one looks like somebody was in here before. There's a screw missing. Some of them you have to pry them up. But I'm going to see if I could get to that motor, get to the problem without taking it apart. So after I tip this over, I'll show you what I find. All right, first things first, I disconnected the wire, tipped it over. I put it on the 4x4 I had. 2 reasons. One, to keep it off the ground, and 2, not to break the inlets for the hoses on the back. Now, what we have under here, we have this motor that was humming. We have this capacitor. All the wires seem to be intact. This is the pump. Let's see. I'm going to pull this pump off, plug this back in, and see if that motor spins. If it spins, then that means this pump is either seized or there's something in there preventing this motor from spinning. Some of these will have a belt from the motor to the drum. This one looks like it's a direct drive, and it could also be this. I'm assuming it's a gearbox under here. It could be this is jammed up. So let me get this pump off and see what happens. All right, to get the pump off, you have this latch in the front and one in the back. I use a little pry bar and a little gentle persuasion to get the back one off. So the pump is disconnected from the motor. I'm going to plug this back in, turn it on, and see if we get anything to spin here. Now this is on its back. It's on its back. I have it plugged in. You have to keep this lid closed. Let's see now. This motor isn't spinning. Let's put this in the rinse. I'm going to stand this upright again to see if that tub will spin, because it won't spin this way even if it was working because it's on its side. Okay, the motor's not seized, so that's not an issue. What got me was that humming before. Well, I'm going to turn this upright and see what we get. Okay, now we have it upright. There's that humming again. I tried turning this tub and it won't turn. So I'm thinking it might be that clutch underneath. To hear that motor hum. I'm going to put this camera down and try turning this by hand, see if anything happens. Okay, this just won't turn. Normally I would think it was the little dogs that have in here to turn it, but I don't think so with this because of that hum. I'm going to take it off anyway just to see what we have in here. I had this on my machine where I had to change a part in here. Now everything looks alright in here. In fact, I probably have parts I could save on this and use. Well, I'm going to research this and see if there's anything I can find out on it. But the way it looks so far, trash your treasure, trash. But like I mentioned earlier, I took it because I need this metal and I was going to use the motor for another project. And before I forget, let me unplug this. I'm going to go check to see if there's something I could do about that clutch underneath, what could possibly jam it up. If I could find something to help me get that going, I'll be back to show you. And if not, I'll be back to let you know that also. So as soon as I find out, I'll be back. I was putting my tools away, and before I went inside, I thought about it. I said, what are the things that could keep this from turning? This isn't a recommended way. What I did, I'm working outside. I have a couple concrete blocks with a board, and I have this machine upside down. So I'm looking at it now. It's unplugged. You always want to make sure you unplug. I have this motor over here. We have this connection between the motor and this, I'm going to call it a gearbox. I'm not sure the terminology, but we can see that this spins. Okay, this is turning, so there's nothing stopping this motor from turning this. It goes the other way. It'll turn a little bit and then stop. There we go. Now it's locked. I tried to turn this drum and you can see nothing happens. So I was going to take this gearbox off, open it up, but before I go into that, I see between the drum there's a plastic drum that keeps the water in, because the metal drum, the water goes through and it whooshes around, does whatever it's got to do. But I noticed it looks like a lot of scum in here all the way around. I'm wondering if it's just a buildup in here. Maybe somebody had clothes from a beach, sand, dirt, who knows how old this machine is too. It looks like it's been around for a while, although I did have it outside for a few months. But before I take this apart, I'm going to flip this back over and take the casing off and pull that drum out and see if there's anything under here that would keep it from spinning. Now this is just a question of curiosity. It's really got me curious on this, and it's one of those things that I just can't let go right now. So I'm going to flip this back over, take the top casing off, pull that drum out, and see what we find under here. When I picked this washer up, to use in one or two ways. One, I was either going to fix it and try to flip it, or two, I was going to use it for a project that I was thinking of. Well, this was a little worse for wear when I picked it up. It wasn't too bad, but it was out here for a few months and I just didn't get a chance to it. As I was working on it, I'm looking at it and I said, well, what am I going to get for this when it's running? Because it wasn't the pretty, I mean, this would clean up somewhat decent, but it wasn't in the best of conditions. But I found a couple of things out while I was working on it. What kept it from spinning? This pump had garbage in it. I don't see if the camera could pick that up. I pulled some of it out already. You can see in there. Let me get this camera. Get the tripod. And this pump, it was all this gook. This is normal, what would be in a pump. But I guess after years of use, it was just too much in there. I was pulling it out, and as I was turning it, I was getting more and more out of it. So this was keeping everything from turning. In addition to that, once I cleaned the pump out, there's a little bit, still a little bit more in here. This pump is workable right now, but it had so much of this lint or whatever you get from the wash that it just couldn't spin. It was locked up. The second thing that went as I was working on it, when I freed up the pump, this motor would hum, but it wouldn't spin. I believe it's the capacitor. I didn't check the capacitor, but I believe that's what it is. And I'll show you this motor working in a minute, but I want to show you the pieces I got out of it. I'm saving these. This is from the clutch. They're not worn out, but there's oil on it. So the gearbox was leaking. They're not in bad shape. I'm holding on to this piece here. This is for the connection on the bottom. You have this piece that goes on the inside, these dogs. On my washer, I had to replace these. Now, they're not expensive. They're about $8 for brand new ones. They're easy to put in. One bolt, this piece comes out, you put the new ones in. So it's not a hard thing to replace, but I'll save these. You never know if it strips. I don't have to order any. I have them in place. Why they're so discolored like that, I don't know. But I'm saving this. This I want to point out. This is the piece that holds the hub in. And they have a tool, a spanner wrench that goes on here. I was using a piece of pipe and a sledgehammer. No matter how hard I hit it, this wouldn't turn. I even got in closer with a punch and hit it, and it wouldn't turn. I put some penetrating fluid here, let it set. Then I even dropped some oil in there, let it set, and it still wouldn't turn. I actually had to cut it. This piece wasn't cut. This is how it was. This is the piece I had to cut to unscrew it. And I believe this is lead. So if you're saving lead for anything, if you take one of these apart, if you're saving lead for whatever you may be saving it for, yeah, no iron in here at all. This is a magnet. No iron in here at all. So I'm saving this. I got some springs, miscellaneous springs, nuts and bolts that I'm saving in here. I'll separate them out later. And some other pieces that I got out of it. I have the drum. I may or may not make a burn pit out of this. I wanted one that was stainless steel. This is enamel. Before I do any construction on this to make a burn pit, I'm going to get this plastic off, put a hot fire in here and see if this cracks or whatever, because this is enamel. The bottom of the washer, you have the stand that held the frame, and the engine and everything fit right in here. So if I use this for a burn barrel, I'm going to utilize this stand rather than making legs for it. I'll just utilize what I have. I have the drum that goes around this drum that holds the water. Don't know what I'm going to do with this. Might scrap it. This is the gearbox, and you can see it was leaking quite a bit of oil. It turns and everything, but it was leaking. Here's where the clutch goes in. There's this other piece, the springs for the clutch. And see where this was leaking. I'm going to open this up later just to see what's inside of it. I'm just out of curiosity. And this shaft I'm going to save. Don't know what I could use it for, but something like this, when I do these little builds, I might be able to use this for something. Saving the hose, the clamps, and this control box. I'm going to cut this, close off the back with the metal that was on the back of the washer. I'm going to use this to control that motor and the project that I'm going to make, if it all turns out well. I'm going to reconnect the wires to that motor and show you it spinning. Be back in a minute. If you're not familiar with working with electric motors, don't do this. I did. I reconnected. Here's the capacitor wires. I reconnected the wire to, this is for the lid switch. And here's the juice coming into it. So now, put it in the spin cycle. I have it plugged in. I'm going to pull the knob up to turn the switch on. You can hear it hum. Nothing's happening. But if I give it a little turn, there it goes. Let's see which one's over here. There you go. Same thing. So now, there's sparks coming out of the motor. None of the windings are burnt, shorted out. And so when I saw the condition that it was in, these capacitors, they can't be much. I know I had to buy one for a pump, and it was only like $30–40, and it was way bigger than this, so this can't be much. And I could probably pull it out of another motor, but it was just too much to put together. And I figured on this, if I got $100 for it, I'd be pushing. Like I said, if I cleaned this up, it would have came out nice, and a lot of the scratching came from me playing around with it. I'm going to use this motor and this box on another project. If it turns out well, or if I have time to video it, I'll be showing that. And that's about it. Oh, and another thing, these capacitors, after you disconnect these wires, they do hold the current. So before you go to check them with an ohms meter or take them out or do anything with them, you have to discharge this capacitor. It will give you a nasty bite. This is just a reminder, even if you worked on these before, sometimes you get a little complacent and things happen. And for now, that's a wrap. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And if you would, share it with someone else who might find it useful or entertaining. Oh, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe, hit that Joe Z button, and at the end of the video, hit that bell icon if you would like to see my new videos as I upload them. And until next time, stay safe.